Well, good Monday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Dery alongside meteorologist Courtney Aitken here to talk some weather over the next 15 minutes. And boy, it's a hot one today. Topic number one, hot and humid weather to kick off the work week.
I mean, you can already feel it. First thing in the morning, it hits you as you head out the door. Not only is it hot, you can feel that moisture content in the air.
On the sunrise show, is walking from the Studio A into the backyard, like back and forth.
Yep.
And I just wanted to just stay inside the studio because it's air conditioned. It feels nice. You walk outside, the first thing you go is just,
yeah, the second you open that door to go to the backyard, you're just like, oh, oh no. And
it's like morning hours too.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing that from what, 4:30 to 8 o'clock, and I'm out there from 8 to 9. I'm just like, gosh, it is hot. But it's only 8 a.m. We're in the shade.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about noon, and I'm thinking about 4.
Right. So you can understand.
I may melt.
You can understand why there's a bit of urgency in our wording here. There is a weather impact alert in effect all day today, basically, for the hot temperatures and high humidity as well. Let's go ahead and take those graphics, and we'll show you that it runs through the rest of the day today. The heat index, what it feels like outside, forecast to be between 105 and 110 degrees today. That is some sultry air. We also have a few thunderstorms in the forecast as well, kind of a secondary threat here. But you need to limit your outdoor activities, especially the strenuous stuff during the peak daytime heating hours. I know from experience, like exercising during the heat of the day is not good. I remember a couple of years ago, I was outside on a long run and just started to feel lightheaded all of a sudden and didn't realize that, oh my gosh, I'm suffering from like heat exhaustion, like the early stages of that. So you just got to stop and just slow down a little bit and, of course, drink plenty of fluids. We are under an extreme heat warning until midnight tonight for all areas in that, would you call it magenta color?
Yeah, I think magenta's good. I've been saying pink. I like magenta a little bit better.
Yeah, magenta, kind of a purplish red. That's probably the color of your skin if you don't take it easy outside today. That's where the threshold of a heat index of 105 or warmer and a heat advisory for the orange counties. That includes kind of the edges of that, western northern Minnesota as well as northern Wisconsin, where the heat index gets up to 105. What do you do when to cool yourself off when we have temperatures and heat index values that high?
I mean, personally, I just don't go outside, but obviously that's not an option for everybody. And we're both dog owners, so we've got to get out there one way or another. So things to keep in mind if you are headed outside. I'm the crazy person touching the pavement,
just to
because
see
if
like.
You can't keep your hand on the pavement for more than a few seconds, it's too hot for your dog's paws. So I always tell people to keep that in mind. And if you are going to try and go on a walk around the block, just make sure to carry water with you. It doesn't hurt to have like a cool wet towel to have on your neck. You can dab at your dog's paws with that too. That can be helpful for them. And just try and find shade as much as possible. Find shade and hydrate and limit your time outside. You were telling the story about how you felt symptoms of heat exhaustion, and it's a surprise. It's kind of humbling, and I think it's happened to all of us at some point or another, where you think, okay, I'll be all right. It's a hot day, but it can surprise you, and it's important that you listen to your body, because heat exhaustion is the precursor to heat stroke, which can very quickly be a scary trip to the ER, and we don't want that. So
that's right.
Pay close attention to those symptoms.
The worst heat is expected between about 1 o'clock and about 7 o'clock this evening. It's during that time where the heat index will be over 100 degrees. And this is about as hot as it gets through your forecast, but pretty much every day this week, temperatures will still be in the 90s. The heat index will still be close to 100 during the warmest parts of the day. And just kind of the worst part of it is we don't cool down at night. I think that's kind of the sneaky factor. It's, the heat of the day, that's not the worst part of it. It's the fact that, especially if you don't have access to air conditioning, having the ability to cool down at night is super helpful. So if you don't have that, you can be in a pretty tough place. This is our feels like forecast. This is the numbers that you see here correspond to the air temperature combined with the humidity, basically what it feels like outside. And notice by noon, many of us are already flirting with 100-degree heat index values. If you need to cool down, you just take a 2-hour drive north up towards Duluth and the North Shore, specifically Canal Park. Look at that, 60s for high temperatures today. That is some crazy difference in the heat and humidity index. And we mentioned too that once you get into the evening hours, it still is pretty sultry. Even by 8 o'clock, the heat index is still around 100 degrees. So that's some pretty serious heat, and that'll be with us through the rest of the day and a good chunk of this week. That'll be kind of topic number one. The secondary topic is the severe weather outlook. Courtney, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so there was an upgrade in this outlook, right? Did that happen early this morning or late last night?
Yeah, about 6 o'clock this morning.
Okay, so 6 this morning. What changed was we now have this little orange streak there that's going to be out to the northwest. That does impact parts of 94, along 94, including Moorhead and just to the west of Bemidji. So that area is kind of right on track to potentially see some stronger storms today. And we have the radar coming up next for you, but that area, again, right on track to see some of these stronger cells. For the rest of us, it's possible we get some strong storms, but it's really going to be concentrated to our northwest. Look at Bemidji. By noontime, if the cell that we've seen develop in South Dakota continues on its current track, we could be looking at a pretty robust storm kind of busting through Moorhead, Bemidji by lunchtime today. That would probably contain a lot of lightning. Of course, heavy rain and hail and strong winds would also be concerns. So not only do we have the heat today, for those of you to the north, the bigger concern is likely going to be the potential for those strong to severe storms. So that's noon, and then by the time we get into this evening, we do expect kind of clusters of some messy, strong storms along the international border. Meanwhile, it'll be quiet in the Twin Cities at least through nightfall, and then we see some redevelopment to our west overnight, maybe some light showers to start our Tuesday. And that's kind of the rinse and repeat pattern this entire week, as we have heat and we have a chance of storms. Rinse and repeat every single day. Today is the only weather impact alert that we have because we haven't had heat like this since, what would you say, last year?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm trying to think, the last time we were warmer than 96 was like 3 years ago, something like that.
Which is wild to think about. Yeah. So it definitely needs to be taken seriously. And even after today, even though we don't have weather impact alerts for, say, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even July 4th, still be mindful of that heat. Take it seriously. Highs will be in the 90s. Feels like temperatures still close to 100. And like Ben was saying, we don't cool off too much overnight. So hydration, shade, taking breaks, very important all the way through the rest of the week.
And we've only had one 90-degree day so far this season. So, and we have 6 of them right here on our 7-day forecast.
That's right. So we've got quite the streak. And the 90-degree that we did have, or 90-degree day, I should say, was only 91. So today Today's a whole lot hotter than that, and it'll certainly feel like it,
by far the warmest day of the season so far. And even though we don't have specific thunderstorm chances next weekend, by the way, for the 4th, I still think it could be the case where a few isolated storms are still possible as the heat and humidity kind of stick around. And we want to mention all these thunderstorm chances, they're all conditional threats, right? They're small chances for storms, but if one does get rolling, it has all this heat and all this moisture to tap into, and it quickly can turn severe. And you look at the dew points outside, oh, it's just sticky outside.
Gross.
76 here. Wilmer, an 81-degree dew point. That does not happen very often.
That is just downright tropical. I mean, it's like, where are we, right? We're in Minnesota, but we've got dew points in the lower 80s. Yeah, that's wild, and you're certainly going to feel that if you're hoping to get out on that morning walk. I'd make it a short one because it is not going to be pleasant. This is our satellite radar composite over the last 3 hours or so. You can really see those storms firing up in South Dakota. They're now just getting ready to pass into that far western part of Minnesota, and that's where we do have a severe thunderstorm watch. All of those counties in pink are expected to be impacted through noon today. Primary concerns, severe winds and large hail. So we could see wind gusts 60 to 70 miles per hour, and hail could be rather large with these. So I'd find some shelter for your car if you are in one of those counties. And then while we don't issue severe alerts based on things like lightning or heavy rain, you're also going to see those things too
Sure.
if you see one of these storms roll through.
And based on the fact that this storm has held its strength through most of this morning, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that watch expand deeper into north central Minnesota. And it's just one lone cell, but it has produced a myriad of severe weather this morning. And you just look at the last 3 hours, we've had damaging wind gusts, we've had hail reports, and even a couple of tornadoes reported as well. Take a look at this one report right here that came just east of Pierce, South Dakota at 6:15 this morning. This was a wind gust at a weather station. So it was a measured wind gust that peaked out at 131 miles per hour. That is likely straight line wind damage, that it would be producing, but that is like EF2 category tornado strength, which is wild. We don't see a whole lot of reports over 90 miles per hour, let alone over 100. 131 miles per hour. I believe I saw 2 separate reports that were that strong from 2 different weather stations. That is some crazy wind. Now, granted, it's over flat terrain. There's no trees or wind or trees or buildings to kind of help slow down that wind. But you see numbers like that, Courtney, and it really sticks out to you.
It's definitely concerning. And when you say straight line wind damage, I think it's important for people to remember that even if it's not a tornado, straight line winds can do arguably just as much damage, especially when you're working with speeds 130 miles per hour. That is definitely enough to take down a fence, take down a power line, probably even more than that. And as we look at this cell that we've been monitoring all morning, there's so much lightning that you can't really even see the precipitation. And I say that because one way to gauge the strength of a storm is by looking at how much lightning it's producing. And for example, this radar scan is showing
head up to 1,600.
1,600 strikes, and that's, I believe, what, over the last 10 minutes?
15 minutes. So
last 15 minutes.
We could do some quick math here. Can we do some math? 1,600 strikes every 15 minutes. Was that over 100 strikes a minute?
That's an incredible amount of lightning. So this is a really loud storm, too, for those of you in the area. And it's not showing any signs of weakening. So once again, we would not be surprised if that watch gets extended further into parts of northern Minnesota. So those of you in Bemidji, definitely heads up this afternoon.
And we talk about this rinse and repeat forecast. The overall dominating weather pattern is not going to change much day to day this week. We have this big area of high pressure, what we call a heat dome, which is setting up just to our south. And these storms, they like to form on the periphery of that heat dome. So it's kind of the boundary between the really hot, soupy air, where it's literally too hot to storm over that ridge, and then the outer edges of that where we have more unstable conditions. And we are probably going to see this pattern continue this week, where we have a conditional threat for storms, specific threats. They're hard to pinpoint because we need this morning's convection to move through, then tonight's convection to move through, and a lot of those create their own miniature boundaries. So specific storm threats, we don't do a great job at forecasting those. We can just say that the potential is there for thunderstorms, and given how hot and humid it's going to be, just keep in mind these storms could be on the rowdier side. And that's where this severe weather outlook goes in play. That orange category, that's the enhanced risk for severe weather. That's mainly for the morning storms. The yellow shaded from the Twin Cities southward, that's mainly for this evening and overnight's thunderstorms that move through. So this is one last look at that microcast. There's that cell that, again, is pushing into far west central Minnesota over the next hour or so, passing through cities like Pelican Rapids, Detroit Lakes, Bemidji, probably just before noontime today. And Bemidji, they're no stranger to straight line wind damage. We had that event, what was it, last year, that produced all kinds of damage. This is a system that is kind of reminiscent of that. Granted, it doesn't look as strong right now, but still 60 to 70 plus mile per hour winds, that's some pretty serious wind. And most of the thunderstorm chances today during the daylight hours stay up north, and then we have those evening thunderstorms that roll through after dark. That could be severe. It just depends on, if they can get going. So that's your forecast for today. Here's one last look at the 7-day, and you will see it's pretty much the same forecast moving forward. Not as hot, but I mean, can you really tell the difference between 96 and 92 degrees?
I mean, personally, no. And I think that the same applies to winter, right? It's like negative 15 versus negative 6. It's like, all right, it's cold. That's the moral of the story.
Sure.
And the I know that some people are really curious, a lot of people probably are really curious about what's going to happen on Saturday, since that is the holiday. Just keep in mind, it's one of those weeks that whatever develops storm-wise on any given day is kind of dependent on what happened the previous day. So hang in there. It is a rinse and repeat forecast, but the heat is a given.
Stay tuned for those latest forecast updates. We'll have more news and more weather right around the corner.